Nerdrotic.com.
Keri, so is it true that I heard it was like a knitting community, right? Something like that.
So I was a what you guys call a social justice warrior for about 20 years. And I'm someone who was indoctrinated in college like 2 decades ago. And like a lot of people of, my cohorts, I guess, of people my age who left college at that time, sort of brought the ideology into whatever our workplaces were. So I took it into entertainment. I had my own management company. I managed comedians. I ended up at the height of my career, like produced a late night comedy show on FX. But my whole goal was to bring these issues that I thought I was on the side of good. A lot of social justice warriors think they're doing something good. They're making the world a better place. So I was trying to bring it into comedy and entertainment. And then I had friends, of course, who went into media. They took it with them. They started to work at Google. They took it with them. And the knitting world that you mentioned, the knitting world is something that Carter and I stumbled on. It was one of the first big spikes, I guess, we got in viewers was when we started covering the knitting wars.
Dark times are upon us.
And
that's the one I saw.
Sorry, that is a word, a fucking statement I never thought I'd hear in my life.
Right?
That's the one I caught.
Now, maybe I thought the crocheting wars, but never the knitting wars.
Mm-hmm. And they've moved on to crochet. They're also in the sewist community.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, enough! This far, no further!
Yeah.
You've got me. I'm hooked. Give me more.
I have to say, this is something we talk about a lot. As we started covering it, we started getting more knitters watching us.
Come again?
I was sort of trying to explain what I saw happening as a former SJW in this little microcosm in the online knitting world and Instagram. So there have been these wars. And I was sort of saying, won't it be interesting if the people that save Western civilization end up being the gamers and the knitters? They said, no more.
Hard. Yeah, it's like the last place you would think that anything like that would be an issue. I mean, you guys sit around and go, you know what? There's not enough diversity in this knitting circle. I feel like we need to add a few more colorful faces or something like that.
Okay, let's get you that tan you've been searching for. That's it.
Well, yes, Tom, it's exactly like, how did it happen in gaming? And then take that and put it in the knitting. It's the same thing. It moves in. So social justice ideology is a bit like a religion. I call it a cult. I think it does meet a lot of the cult characteristics, with the exception of having one charismatic leader that would be so much simpler if you could point that out.
Horror and moral terror are your friends. If they are not, then they are enemies to be feared. They are truly enemies.
But it does have a lot of the cult characteristics. You're not allowed to question the dogma. They encourage you to isolate yourself from people who don't believe. And it moves in this sort of fundamentalist way, in this religious way. And so it moved into the knitting world in the same way it moved into gaming. It became, people started virtue signaling. It became a way to show that you're a good person. And they ended up taking it so far, they started canceling knitters. The way that it exploded in the knitting world was, there's a great author, her name's Catherine Jepson Moore, if you guys want to read about the knitting wars. She did a series of articles about it. And it started with a knitter named Karen Templar, who did a blog about going to India. And she literally, all she said that they found objectionable was that she had always wanted to go to India. She loved the colors there, the fabrics, and she never thought she would get to go. So when she found out she had won a trip, or someone was going to give her a trip to India, it felt like winning a trip to Mars.
I'm so excited!
Mm-hmm.
They said this was racist. Some SJWs found
what?
her post. Yeah.
I'm so scared!
But here's what happened. There were a couple people they went after. They went after Maria Tuscan of Tuscan Knits, and she's an independent. She dyes yarn. She does her own yarn line.
Mm-hmm.
They went after her simply because she would not denounce Karen. And she did a blog saying that Instagram, the knitting world, was becoming too toxic and she was going to take a break. That's all she said. She said, I don't want to comment on any of it.
Just leave me alone. Leave me alone.
They called her a white supremacist. If you look her up to this day, you will find stuff about how she's a Nazi, she's a white supremacist. They got her banned from knitting festivals and conventions. She had friends turn on her who were like, I'm sorry, I can't be seen with you.
All right, Keri. You're taking the piss now. Come on. You're having a great joke. All right, you got it. Well done. Why are you really here? What have you done?
It's like a movie, right?
SJW, the movie. In a world where you can't question anything. Movie Bob gives it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Inappropriate thumbs up.
In it, though.
But so, okay, one other thing that happened. So there was Maria Tuska. Now you're really going to think this one isn't real, but this is also crazy. They went after her, and they went after Sockmatician. Sockmatician is he's a popular knitting designer. He does a lot of sock patterns. Prior to this happening, he probably casually accepted a lot of social justice tenets. And he actually coined the diverse knitty hashtag, diverse knitty, get it? Diverse knitty. Mm-hmm. And so he had a lot of respect from the social justice world. He did a poem. He wrote a poem about kindness where he was basically saying, let's stop all the pile-ons, let's come together. This isn't, liberalism. He was writing something, putting something positive into the world. For his crime of tone policing. They piled on him. They got him banned from conventions. Someone physically confronted him at a book signing. He ended up in the hospital.
Stop lying, Keri!
I'm not.
What the fuck?
He said, your hate has been received. Please now send love. And they were like gloating. We don't believe he's really in the hospital. Show us pics. I hope he dies.
Yeah, you see a lot of that.
How can you be racist in the knitting community? How does it transpire that you're knitting?
It's about color.
Racism.
To your question about racism, one of the most recent dust ups I saw a few months ago, they went after a popular knitting store because they had a calendar for the year, and on the calendar they had like skeins of yarn, and they had a pair of hands knitting, and they said they were white hands, and the white hands were not diverse. And they threw a fit.
You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
And then we had some fun with it. I had a friend Photoshop cat hands.
Yes.
True.
I ended up working in comedy almost by mistake, but I worked there with the goal of I wanted to spread my beliefs through comedy. I felt like this is a good way, and it is a good way to get across ideas, because if you can get people laughing, you can get them to think about things in a different way. And so in my little sphere of the world, I tended to work with comedians who also shared social justice ideology. You've seen it, people who are doing it in gaming, people who are doing it in knitting world. It's because they've picked up this religion, and they believe the most important thing they need to do is spread it in whatever little sphere of the universe they're in.
Mm-hmm. If you like what I do here, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking and sharing the videos. It really does help. And if you did this with your favorite YouTuber as well, I'm sure they would appreciate it as much as I do.